The following podcast is a presentation of This Is Infamous. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Just the Worst Wrestling Podcast, episode number 29 to be perfectly precise. I'm your host as usual, Billy Donnelly, who you can find at joeblow.com. This is Infamous, and right here at Just the Worst Podcast. And the road to WrestleMania has finally reached its conclusion. We're at the end, and WrestleMania 32 is upon us, as well as the entire WrestleMania weekend. I'm going to be heading down to Dallas, Texas to take in the festivities. This will be my 6th WrestleMania experience of my entire life. And while we have been critical to this point, I got to say, I'm excited, as I usually am when WrestleMania is here. I'm excited to go there. I'm excited to sort of take in everything with my fellow wrestling fans, meet some friends that I only really get to see once a year around WrestleMania weekend. It should be a good time. Will it be a good card? Well, we'll find that out a little bit later in the show as I run through my predictions for WrestleMania as well as for NXT Takeover Dallas. So stay tuned for that, as well as I talk about this week's Raw and everything sort of leading into WrestleMania this year, and what I see is sort of the epitome of everything that's been going on in the build towards this particular card. Now look, I don't want to minimize this because we got something special here right to kick off the show before I get into all of my WrestleMania weekend predictions. This was, for us, a This Is Infamous YouTube exclusive. So if you had a chance to jump on this last week as we played it up on YouTube, then, well, you got an advance bonus. And you really, well, you were ahead of the game this time. But what we're doing this week, I'm going to bring something special onto this particular show as part of what was our This Is Infamous YouTube exclusive. Last week, I had the chance to sit down and have a conversation with the current, reigning, defending WWE Divas Champion Charlotte. We had a really, really candid, really great conversation about her transition from NXT to the WWE, the legacy of her family, the failed Divas Revolution, lots of things on the table, and I am bringing that to you on this particular show. And even further, you don't have to wait, because we're going to get into it right here, right now. I present to you the WWE Divas Champion Charlotte.
Hi, Billy. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
Good. I just landed at home, packing my bag for WrestleMania. Sorry.
Well, that's quite all right. Don't worry about it. All right. So I guess the place I wanted to start was sort of making your way up to the main roster. And what works in Orlando in front of the Full Sail crowd doesn't always necessarily connect once you're on Raw and SmackDown and the like. So for you, what have you found to be sort of the biggest adjustment you've had to make as you've transitioned from NXT to the main roster?
Oh, I should go on about this. No, for me, debuting as a babyface, for one. When I was at NXT, I debuted as a heel, and then I slowly transitioned into a face because the crowd had learned to respect me. They saw me grow over time. Win the championship, lose the championship, main event the first ever NXT show with Sasha. So they respected me. So I just kind of, went babyface by default, waiting to debut. So when I debuted on the main roster, other than the NXT following, is, they saw a product that was cheered, not because they loved her, not because they, understood her journey. They're just, I was trying to be a babyface and a final product and didn't see me grow into that. So transitioning, into a heel role, I finally feel like I'm connecting with the main roster and I'm finally getting to show my strength.
Yeah, it feels like you sort of reached a comfort level a little bit once you were able to sort of turn your character a little bit much more heelish. When you first came up, was it really a matter of, I guess, finding your footing as far as how this now larger, more mainstream audience, I guess, would view you and perceive your character?
Well, yeah, I mean, I debuted as a babyface, and I never, at NXT, I could still be Charlotte and be a heel, but when you're trying to get over on the main roster as a babyface, it's harder to have heel tendencies if they don't know who you are, because you want people to like you. And Charlotte's character, she walks around saying she's genetically superior. To me, that's not very endearing. So I struggled, because it's like, Charlotte's character is this like confident woman, and when you see this 5'10" female, that's saying she's genetically superior, and her dad's Ric Flair walking down the aisle and you've never seen her before, it's really hard to make yourself relatable. Because when I was working on Charlotte with Sarah Del Rey and Norman Smiley and Dusty Rhodes, I wanted to come across as untouchable. And it was hard. And now that I finally, I'm a heel, I finally feel like I'm getting to show a little bit of what I can do.
The WWE Universe has sort of grown accustomed to seeing the divas in a certain light, due in large part to how they've been portrayed for a number of years. So with bringing up, these fresh faces of women between you and Becky Lynch and Sasha, how do you go about changing the perception of women's wrestling so that it's taken seriously again? I mean, is it sort of just one match at a time?
No, I think the best thing is really not to talk about it and say that we're changing it. Show people that we're changing it. Show people, if they look at the last 6 months or however I've been champion since September, more time, bigger spots, more storylines, 2 Divas matches. For instance, I opened SmackDown yesterday that airs on Thursday, never done before. Me and Paige closed out Raw. I just think it'll slowly change, but we just can't say, hey, we're changing it. People will just notice a change as they continue to watch the product and see us grow. It just doesn't happen overnight. And at NXT, the 4 horsewomen, that we developed into that label, it's not like we started and we're like, hey, we're here to change the game. We just worked our butts off. And then it happened. So I don't think it'll be any different on the main roster. It'll just take a while.
Well, is that sort of, I guess, a mistake then with the quote unquote Divas Revolution? Was that, with NXT, it seemed to be much more organic over time. The fans it just sort of happened. And then here, when the 3 of you get called to the main roster and it's sort of told, it felt like you were almost put behind the 8 ball a little bit. So I guess in that respect, looking back, would you have preferred it to have gone slightly differently so that the transition would have gone a little bit easier, I guess?
Well, no, because, everything always works out the way it's supposed to. Even if, it was a harder transition, maybe I try to look at it the positive way. Like, I was so eager to turn up my character and change. And if it had just, I started out as a heel. I'm just using me as an example. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have had anything to go from. In the last, 6 months, I've been able to show continuous growth and not looking at, it is hard to say, hey, this is the Divas Revolution. This, you're calling something a revolution. You just don't, people can't, you have to let it happen, like you said in NXT. So I think now that we're past it and we're having a triple threat with the 3 of us who all debuted, then they'll kind of see the change instead of being called that. Does Am I answering your question?
No, I totally get what you mean there, because like I said, it was a very difficult time when you were all first called up, and I know that there was a lot of hope too when the three of you were called up to the main roster, that maybe things would be changing as a result. And then when it sort of stagnated a little bit, I know that there were some fans who were disappointed, especially NXT fans, who were sort of disappointed in that happening. So yeah, I totally get you.
Yeah, but you know what? The thing about the fans though is they're gonna find something that they don't like anyways.
It's true.
I mean, people don't normally, no one talks about the good. They just want to talk about the bad. And the fact that they had to think, me, Sasha, and Becky had been a part of NXT for a really long time. And we were fresh talent on the main roster. And the main roster is a completely different ballgame.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is the WWE universe, not the NXT brand. So you just can't put, these three new girls who have no exposure, just a little bit that they've had, and, like they know us because, they're the diehards. But, I mean, I think the company has done a tremendous job easing us into these crowds that never seen us before,
Mm-hmm. No, I absolutely
thankfully
agree.
for the network, we're overseas and people can, buy the network and tune in and see what we're capable of. But I think for me, Sasha, and Becky, we're extremely proud we are where we are in the short amount of time that we have, gotten this far, because I thought it would even take longer. I mean, it's only the three of us in one match on the biggest card of all. That's huge. There's not one other girl. I mean, we're all NXT in one match.
Well, let me ask you about that, because just a little over a year ago, it was you and Becky and Sasha who were part of Fatal 4-Way at NXT Takeover Rival, which tore the house down at Full Sail. So how special is it to be involved in your very first WrestleMania match with those very same women who you all sort of came up together and are all having this experience at the exact same time?
Well, the fact that the three of us know each other, like you said, and we have that history, we all have one common goal, and that's to steal the show. And I know that sounds crazy, and I know it's WrestleMania, but that's what's gotten the three of us. And even though I'm sure Bayley will be up here sooner or later, and we think about her with, everything, because the four of us did it together, that's how comfortable we are with each other, because we have the same goals. We train together. We know the ins and outs, the characters. Like, it's so freaking exciting that the three of us get to do what we do best, and that's work with each other.
I look forward to it. I have goosebumps even just hearing you talk about it, because, I mean, I was there last year. I saw you and Sasha at the NXT show in San Jose, so I know what you women are capable of together, and I am really looking forward to this match at WrestleMania.
Thank you so much.
Let me ask you about your dad, because obviously Ric Flair is your dad, a legend in the business, very imposing figure, because he casts a huge shadow because of who he is and what he's managed to accomplish. Now, when your half-brother David first started wrestling in WCW, he was very much unfairly compared to the Nature Boy because of just the nature of the business. How have you sort of, I guess, managed to sort of work around and avoid comparisons or expectations to your dad and what he's done in order to carve your own path?
All right. Well, for one, my brother was put on WCW television without any training.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, hey, here's Ric Flair's kid. Let's throw him on TV. Not fair, not right, not cool. So my brother's, wrestling career, way different than mine. For me, I'm a very competitive person, and I've played sports my whole life at really high levels. And I know this sounds crazy, but it was almost fate for me. When I signed on, I was the only girl with no wrestling experience. Yeah, my dad was Ric Flair, but I was with a bunch of girls who had been working the independent scene for years. So when I stepped on and all these girls could go, I'm thinking, okay, well, I don't want to be sidelined. I want to be doing what they're doing. I want to be doing what Paige is doing. I want to be doing what Emma's doing. I want to be doing what Sasha's doing, Bayley, Becky Lynch. So that was my group. And then they bring on Sarah Del Rey, and it was, it wasn't like I was working with 3 other, girls with no background. They're girls that had years of experience, and when you train with people with years of experience, you only rise to their level, and they rise you. So they were getting to lead me, and I was getting to follow. And I think that was, one of the biggest things to, progressing my in-ring skills, but in terms of being compared to my dad, for me, mentally, I know I have a lot of special gifts athletically, and especially being as big as I am compared to the other girls, I look at it as like my dad wasn't athletic. Love him to death. I mean, he's an athletic guy, but all the years of training that my dad put me through with personal trainers and all the sports, and he was relentless, I feel as if he, there was a bigger plan for me, and this is where, I was going to get to excel at all those things he had me do all those years. And I want to be an extension of my father's legacy. So I just, always want to get better and continue to prove people wrong.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. I look forward to the match at WrestleMania.
Thanks, Billy. Enjoy.
There you have it. Told you it was a good one. Great conversation with Charlotte. Always a pleasure to have a chance to sit down and talk with her. And I hope you enjoyed it. And as I said during our chat, and I meant it, no bullshit here. I'm shooting it with you straight. Goosebumps on my arms talking about that triple threat Divas match that's going to take place at WrestleMania 32. I think if that match is given the time it deserves, having seen what Charlotte and Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks, the boss, can put together, they're going to take women's wrestling to another level, a level that it hasn't been at for quite some time, and they're going to open a lot of eyes. And do not sleep on that match. Do not underestimate it. I'm telling you right now, that match, if given the amount of time it deserves, has the potential to steal the show. That has the potential to be the match that we are talking about after WrestleMania 32 and in the years to come. We could be looking at a classic. Could be looking at a women's wrestling clinic. So be excited for that one. The goosebumps are real. The hair standing up on my arm, real. It's going to be awesome. That's the match I'm looking forward to the most. But we'll get into that in just a bit. I want to talk a little bit about Raw, and then we'll get into WrestleMania and NXT TakeOver. Wasn't sure we were even going to have this podcast. Been dealing with technical difficulties out the yin-yang to try and get this thing ready. Still going to make sure I put the finishing touches on my bag to be packed for my first flight. My flight first thing in the morning to get to Dallas. Wanted to make sure, though, I got you my predictions. So I'm glad that the gods of wrestling smiled down upon me to be able to bring this show to you. But I want to get into a couple things on Raw that I think speak loudly about where we are heading into WrestleMania. Then we'll get into predictions. I'll lay that out for you, and then we'll go home, and I'll go to WrestleMania. And you, if you're going to WrestleMania, awesome. Maybe I'll see you there. If you're not, I hope you get a chance to sit back on Sunday and really enjoy everything, as well as the Hall of Fame and NXT TakeOver Dallas. So let me talk about Monday Night Raw, because look, I thought they were actually going to perhaps give us a really good show heading into WrestleMania 32. One of the things that we've been criticizing week in and week out as we head to Dallas on the road to WrestleMania is how weak the build towards this card has been. How weak some things have just seemed to be thrown together for the purpose of finally hashing out a card through the injury that have decimated the roster and sort of disrupted a lot of the programs I think they had in the works heading then towards WrestleMania. Now, coming out of the show, we seem to have a pretty solid start. Okay? Coming out on Monday Night Raw, it seemed like we were off to a solid start. It seemed like with the Shane McMahon Undertaker confrontation and Shane McMahon putting the Undertaker through the announce table within the first 15 minutes of Raw opening, it seemed like there was some life breathed into Monday Night Raw. There was some unpredictability to it. There was some organized chaos to it. It felt like one of those nights where anything might be able to happen, and as a result, sort of light that spark as we head towards WrestleMania 32. Because the Shane McMahon Undertaker build has been alright. Okay. Nothing to write home about, with the exception of when Shane McMahon has been there. I think the Vince stuff, playing up the disowning his son and threatening the Undertaker's retirement, I think that has been some of the weakest stuff in this feud. When this thing has really caught fire, it has been when Shane McMahon has had a chance to come to the ring with a microphone in his face and spit passion that the fans have been able to recognize and be excited about. That is when it has been at its best. Once you sort of bogged it down with too many details and stories that didn't make sense, it starts to fall apart. But Shane McMahon coming and confronting The Undertaker and taking the fight to The Undertaker and leaping from the top rope across the aisle and putting The Undertaker through the announce table to start off the show, I thought that was fantastic. And the fans in Brooklyn agreed with me. They were into it. The first hour of Monday Night Raw this week was very good, because you followed up the Shane McMahon Undertaker segment with AJ Styles and Chris Jericho, which once again is a personal issue that people can get on board with. That they look at and they say, yeah, that is two guys who don't like each other, and I want to see how this shakes out. And since Chris Jericho has sort of reverted back from 1998 Chris Jericho into pretty solid heel Jericho, this feud between him and Styles has really gone up a notch. And it's been interesting and compelling to watch. So you had these two segments back to back, and you started to really have a pace that was moving. You felt like, man, we're going to build all of these WrestleMania matches through one night, and we're going to do it pretty well. Until 9 o'clock hour. The 9 o'clock hour happened, and Triple H came out with Stephanie, and Monday Night Raw came to a screeching and excruciating halt. The entire first hour was just sort of laid to waste by another sort of lengthy, drawn-out promo. Typically the kind of promo that would start a Monday Night Raw. They just moved it back an hour this time. And it just... Look, I know Triple H is one of the all-timers, and he's really good at times, but he's also incredibly verbose. So when he gets into his promo mode, where he plays up how important he believes he is, those segments are so long, and they're just momentum killers. When you are rolling and things are going well, and then you just stop. It's like watching an NBA team go into its offense, where there's lots of ball moving, it's really exciting, and then all of a sudden the ball stops with one guy who wants to go one-on-one. It's like the black hole of basketball. Triple H is like the black hole of wrestling promo at times. where any momentum, any pace just stops. For him to say the same thing 5 different ways over the course of 15 minutes. And once Triple H got into that ring, things really went off the rails for Monday Night Raw. And there were 2 things that happened on Monday Night Raw that I just thought spoke volumes about all of the problems that the WWE has been facing in building towards WrestleMania. One is far more glaring than the other, but the latter, I think, really does pinpoint how off the viewpoint has been of what's going on with the WWE, the WWE Universe, and the way that the product has been presented and received. Now, the first, of course, is the Triple H Roman Reigns feud. Now, there's been some sort of debate going on the last few weeks as to what match exactly would headline and main event WrestleMania. What would be the last match on the card? And there seems to have been some debate whether it would be Roman Reigns and Triple H for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, or whether it would be Shane McMahon versus The Undertaker inside Hell in the Cell with the balance of power for Monday Night Raw and the WWE at stake. Now, traditionally, the WWE Championship match would go on last. There's been times when it hasn't, but usually it does. And in fact, you could count on like a couple of fingers the times when that match hasn't been the headliner. I think actually only one time. If I recall, I think the Lawrence Taylor Bam Bam Bigelow match went on last. But everything else has typically been the championship match. And you could see that here. You could see that that's where they're putting all their eggs in that one basket. Because Shane McMahon and The Undertaker had the opening segment of Monday Night Raw. And then that was kind of it. Now, they put a lot of stock into Triple H and Roman Reigns throughout the night. But as we have seen, everyone continues to reject it. Now look, I have been begging for weeks and weeks and weeks to let Roman Reigns do something heroic. You want to make him be the top babyface in your company, then you need to allow him to be a hero. But that's not the way he's presented. And I'll use a perfect example. Roman Reigns came down and confronted Triple H on Monday Night Raw. And this is once again following Roman Reigns coming after Triple H in the arena last week. And Michael Cole, calling this action, described it as Roman Reigns' attack on Triple H. Roman Reigns' attack on Triple H. How can you have a heroic babyface who attacks anyone? It can't be done. It just can't be done. You look at all the baby faces that we've had over the years, the top baby faces, and how many of them have attacked anyone? Hulk Hogan never attacked anyone. John Cena never attacked anyone. Daniel Bryan never attacked anyone. Sting never attacked anyone. The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, they never attacked people. They may have gone for retribution or vengeance or revenge having been attacked first, but it was also equal measure. It wasn't they were attacked once and now every single week following they go on the warpath, because it's not equal. That's not heroic. You do it to the point where you find justice. Anything beyond that is a problem. And so what they have here, this particular week, once again, is Roman Reigns going above and beyond, quote unquote, attacking Triple H. How can you have a heel be attacked by the babyface? See, subconsciously, you're planting the seeds in the fans' heads to not look at this in a favorable way. You're setting it up for failure. Now, we can have all sorts of arguments and discussions and debates about whether or not Roman Reigns is organic enough or he's just being rejected for being forced down people's throat, but you also have to take steps necessary in order to sort of mitigate the circumstances that you have set up to this point. So I've begged week after week, please let this guy do something heroic. And does he do anything heroic? Absolutely not. So you look at the way that everything has been set up heading into WrestleMania, and your top babyface challenging for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship in the main event is not really a hero. He's sort of psychotic, and not even in a good, entertaining way like Dean Ambrose. He's in a psychotic, like, gee, man, can't you just let this shit go sort of way? Then you have Roman Reigns in the back. Now he gets attacked by Triple H. And you could say, okay, look, maybe they're perhaps setting him up for something heroic. Something good to maybe help fans look at him and say, okay, he's the good guy. This is the reason why we cheer him. And he's attacked by Triple H and the Dudley Boys in the back. Really does a horrible job of selling the attack, first of all. So that doesn't really help. But then to end the show, of course, now they have Triple H come out for like a third segment, a second promo segment, mind you, where once again Roman Reigns comes out, and now he's going to go head-to-head, face-to-face with Triple H. Now, the locker room empties. They try to separate everyone. And Roman Reigns, once again, goes off into the very thing that the fans have rejected him for, which is a complete and totally manufactured moment. Because while they're being separated and Triple H is trying to fight his way back to the ring, what does Roman Reigns do? He goes into the ring and he does this magnificent leap over the top rope onto all the bodies down on the floor, and then gets back in the ring and just sort of hangs out and poses until the end of the show. There's no fire there. There's no passion. He is now not fighting through everyone in order to get his hands on Triple H as retribution for the attack he recently just suffered. It's a moment of choreography. It's a moment that doesn't feel real, and this is why the fans have seen this and seen through all of it and said, no, this is not for us. That is why every single segment that included Triple H and Roman Reigns on Monday Night Raw got booed out of the building in Brooklyn. And when they get to WrestleMania 32 in Dallas, I anticipate a similar reaction. And they cannot be saved at this point. They are past the point of no return. They were past the point of no return 2 weeks ago. They had a chance to maybe sort of steer in another direction here on Monday night, but they kept their head down and their blinders on, and they're still going with the exact same thing. And all it takes is a little couple of tweaks. You could have fixed this thing before we got here. But nobody wanted to. Nobody recognized how. They all thought it would be fine. And said, don't worry, everything's okay. We'll get to WrestleMania and everything will be alright. Everyone will look at this and everything will be fine. And it's not fine. When you watch this match at WrestleMania 32, do not be surprised to see both sides of the main event get absolutely booed out of AT&T Stadium in Dallas. Absolutely booed and rejected. This is the second year in a row that they have tried to make Roman Reigns happen. This is the second year in a row they have failed miserably. Roman Reigns equals fetch, and fetch is never going to happen. And the only way for them to possibly fix this is to make the heel turn that is necessary. To in front of a hostile crowd on Monday night following WrestleMania at Raw, either with the title or without, it doesn't really matter to me, is to have Roman Reigns go into that ring and to tell the fans to shove it up their ass. For Roman Reigns to turn around and reject the very fans that reject him. And you can't look at this and say, but he's so kid-friendly. This is a disaster of epic proportions, and they keep going down the same road. That's insanity. In a nutshell. Just doing the exact same thing and hoping that you're going to get different results. There are no different results. All the results are bad. The writing has been on the wall here for a long time. And they cannot fix it. They need to just sort of go through at WrestleMania and hope to course correct on the other end. But I just thought watching Monday Night Raw, it just once again just spoke about everything they've been doing wrong with Roman Reigns. Just one misstep after another, every step of the way. And now we're here at WrestleMania, and it's too late. They fucked this one up again. And it's going to be bad. I'm not looking forward to it. And all it took was some simple storytelling to fix this. And they have proved incapable of making the corrections necessary. Now, there was one other segment on Monday Night Raw that I just thought once again spoke to why the Roman Reigns Triple H feud has been such a horrible mistake. And that has to do with a very little promoted 10-woman, 10-diva tag team match that will be going on, I believe, in the pre-show of WrestleMania 32. Now, there are two sides to this match. It's called the Total Divas versus Team Bad and Blonde. And the match has Lana, Naomi, Tamina, Emma, and Summer Rae in a match against Brie Bella, Natalya, Paige, and Alicia Fox, with a mystery spot left open for someone to try and fill. Now, at the end of a segment here, it was sort of an all-out brawl in the middle of the ring, and opening the door for a triumphant return of some sort, or a debut, something that would get the fans excited as to who this mystery teammate would be for the Total Divas side. And who emerges on the ramp and comes down to the ring but the all-red everything Red Queen, Eva Marie, to save the day. And guess what? She's rejected. Once again, another talent booed out of the building. Why? Because people hate her. And yet this is a moment where she's supposed to come in and save the day as some sort of triumphant face returning. Do they not understand? This is my problem, is that they are completely tone deaf with no finger on the pulse of anything. Because if you've been watching NXT, Eva Marie, who has been rejected by that fan base, is still one of the hottest heels down there. Why? Because they took the fans' reaction and they used it against them in order to make her a top flight heel. Now, look, I understand that people have problems with Eva Marie's talent in the ring, and I'm going to defend her to a point because I do not believe it is fully her fault. When she was first called up from developmental, she was thrown right into the Total Diva situation because she had a look, especially with the red hair, that was different than anybody else. And they sort of threw her in the ring to sort of take advantage of her presence on Total Divas, and she was never really given the time to train or grow as a talent that many other women who have come up through the ranks have been given. Even now, when they tried to send her back to training down in NXT to get her more ring ready, she can only do so much because of the fact that she's still behind the 8 ball when all is said and done. Behind the curve. She's not as far along as others. She still needs some seasoning. Still needs to be baked a little. But so they send her down to the ring here, and she is booed out of the building. Why? It's the Raw before WrestleMania, which means you have a fairly smart crowd. In addition, you're in Brooklyn, which is a pretty traditionally wrestling solid, wrestling smart market. And you send out there somebody who, for all intents and purposes, you should know is going to be rejected. This is the WWE problem. They keep sending people out there that they think are going to be cheered wholeheartedly by the fans, and they're not. They're rejected in a major way. It doesn't work. You can't do that. You can't do that. And to me, I watched that segment knowing that they thought that Ava Marie was going to be sort of some awesome savior. And I said, that's it. They don't get it. They don't understand who the fans will cheer and who they will not. Because they just have this mindset of, if we send them out there, everything will be fine. But they have no real basis in what the fans like or do not like. And when these things go south really quickly, they just sort of throw their hands up and they say, "Oh, I didn't see that coming." Anyone who watched Monday Night Raw on Monday and believed that when Ava Marie came out on the ramp and ran down to the ring to sort of save the day, anyone who thought that that wasn't going to end up the way it did should have been fired. I mean, they right now should be going out and filing for unemployment because they have no real business telling stories for the WWE. If you thought Ava Marie was going to come down and be some sort of conquering hero that everybody got behind, you don't know shit about shit. And especially not about wrestling. So those are the two things that I really wanted to talk about in regards to Monday Night Raw. And sort of what I thought to be just a summation of the problems we've been witnessing week in and week out as we get to WrestleMania 32. Now, I want to talk, let's make some predictions. I want to talk about NXT TakeOver Dallas first, and then I'll get into my predictions for WrestleMania 32. I am extremely excited about what we're going to get for NXT TakeOver Dallas. I was at the big NXT San Jose show last year over WrestleMania weekend, and let me just tell you that that was one of the most electric experiences I have had a chance to witness live in all of my time of taking in wrestling events. That was right up there with WrestleMania 30, with WrestleMania 20, with my first trip to the ECW arena. I mean, that crowd was electric. That fan base was into it. It was an incredible event to take part in. And I anticipate something similar for NXT TakeOver Dallas. 6 matches make up the card this year. And I think 5 of them have the potential to be something really special. The one that I'm not looking forward to is Apollo Crews versus Elias Sampson, the Drifter. I just find this to be a match between two guys who haven't really quite put it together. I don't know that anybody is into Elias Sampson as the Drifter. And while Apollo Crews does have some street cred from his time on the Indies, and there are some people that have rallied behind him. I just feel like there's something missing there. There's something just missing. He hasn't quite put it together. So I'm not crazy about this match. I think they're still trying to build Elias Samson, and I think he could really use a big win, although I think that would diminish Apollo Crews a little bit. But for the purpose of they seem to have something they really are trying to get going with Elias Samson, I'm going to take Elias Samson via dirty methods, cheating to win in a true heelish fashion, and getting the win over Apollo Crews. Austin Aries makes his NXT debut against Baron Corbin, and I'm really excited about this. I was up in Orlando at the CFE Arena for the University of Central Florida when Austin Aries' debut was interrupted by Baron Corbin, and I think it was a really good start to what should be a pretty cool debut match for Austin Aries. I think people are going to get a good look at who Austin Aries is in this match. I did see Baron Corbin in a recent tour of Florida. I saw them on two stops. One where he had a chance to work against Finn Balor, another one where he had a chance to work against Sami Zayn. And I think Baron Corbin has come a long way to be a really solid heel. He has the heel mannerisms down. His heel interaction with the crowd down. I think Baron Corbin is underrated right now. I think there are a lot of people who found it easy to shit on Baron Corbin as sort of this squash heel for a while. I do like Austin Aries to win in his debut, but I think Baron Corbin is going to be a key part in making that match really work. And I really look forward to Austin Aries versus Baron Corbin, but I'm taking Austin Aries here in his debut. Another debut happening on NXT TakeOver Dallas, and that would be Sami Zayn versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke Nakamura coming over from New Japan, making his debut in NXT against Sami Zayn. Look, I think this is going to be an amazing match to watch. I know there are a lot of people who are really high on Nakamura coming into the system right now. I wasn't crazy about the debut video he had where his match against Sami Zayn was announced, but when we get into the ring and these two guys get to square off, I think it's going to be amazing. And I'm pretty sure that place is going to lose its shit when Shinsuke Nakamura comes out to the ring. It is a smart fan base. It is gathered there. They're going to lose their shit. And especially in a match against Sami Zayn, it's going to be pretty incredible. With Sami Zayn up on the main roster, challenging for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. I do not think he needs this win particularly. He's going to be moving on. I think Nakamura could use the win to sort of help establish himself as a real force to be reckoned with in NXT. I don't think it hurts Sami in any way, shape, or form to do business for Nakamura in his debut at NXT, and that's why I like Shinsuke Nakamura to come away with the win in his debut. Let's get to the Tag Team Championship match. The Revival versus American Alpha. Dash and Dawson defending the NXT Championship against Jason Jordan and Chad Gable. This one is going to be a fantastic match. I saw these two teams work once again twice in their recent tour on Florida. Once in Miami and once in West Palm Beach. And these guys really can go with one another. 6 matches on the card. I think they're going to get plenty of time to make this really fantastic. And both teams are just so good against one another. I know that we're really high on Gable and Jordan right now. That tag team is really starting to come together and gel. But I'm really in favor of having that chase extended for a while. I like the Revival to maintain and retain their NXT Tag Team Championship. I think they are a fantastic heel tag who make everyone else around them better. And I think that tag division is only made better as a whole with them sort of at the top of it. I don't know that Jordan and Gable need those titles just yet. I think it'd be a great crowd-pleasing moment for them to get those belts here. But I also think it goes an even longer way to getting the Revival that much hotter as a heel tag team to stop American Alpha in their tracks. So that's why I like Dash and Dawson to hold on to those belts at NXT TakeOver Dallas. Bayley and Asuka for the NXT Women's Championship. Whew, this is a tough one. Okay, I do not know if or when we are going to get Bayley called up to the main roster just yet. Asuka has been doing fantastic things since she's come in, but right now I think Bayley needs to sort of stay in NXT because that division it's not where it once was. You know, the talent pool was rated with the Divas Revolution, and as a result, it's sort of Bayley and Asuka, and now with Emma looking to maybe be called up, things are gonna be a little too thinned out. I know the Peyton Royce and Billy Kay are there, and they're trying to get them up on the rise, and Nia Jax is also on the rise. You can do something with Asuka and Nia Jax if you want to put the belt on Asuka. I don't know how far they're going to let Bayley roll with this thing. Bayley does not need this title. I don't know how much more popular she's going to be in NXT than she already is now. I also don't know how much more that there's left for Bayley to really achieve at this point in time. I'm looking maybe for a bit of an upset. And it's not really an upset because Asuka is a really amazing talent. I think Asuka has a shot to really capture the NXT Women's Championship right now, because I think it would allow them to base some stories a little bit more about Asuka. Right now, most of everything that's been done with Asuka has been built just around her in-ring ability, her striking talent, and not necessarily so much about her character. I don't know if putting the belt on Asuka will allow them to then be a little bit more character-driven in building Asuka. I love Bayley. I think Bayley's an incredible talent and has been a great ambassador for the NXT brand. But I think in order to sort of liven things up a little bit, I like Asuka to take the NXT Women's Championship at NXT TakeOver Dallas in order to give them some creative ways to move forward and tell some new stories with the talent they already have. That brings us to the main event. Finn Balor defending his NXT Championship against Samoa Joe for the second time. Balor has already defended successfully against Samoa Joe at NXT TakeOver London. And right now, when it comes to this particular match, I like Samoa Joe to capture the NXT Championship. I don't know if Samoa Joe is in the process or that there is any real thoughts on calling Samoa Joe up to the main roster. But I do know that there are a lot of people who are waiting to see Finn Balor come up. And that means Finn Balor coming up. That means the possible introduction of the Bullet Club or the Balor Club or whatever it is they're going to call. And usually post WrestleMania, that would be a moment for that sort of debut to happen. So here in this match, I like Samoa Joe to take that title, become the new NXT champion. And once again, this would give a little bit more intrigue to the story being told with Finn Balor, either down at the NXT brand, now once again chasing the title, or clearing the way for him to move up to the main roster. But either way, I think we have a new NXT champion after NXT TakeOver Dallas. So those are my predictions for those 6 matches. I think it's going to be a fantastic card, so make sure you tune in Friday night on the WWE Network. You're going to want to not miss this one. I think it's going to be fantastic, and I really look forward to being there and watching this one live. Okay, with that said, let's get into WrestleMania predictions. I believe there are 11 matches in total on the card. I believe 4 have now been moved to the pre-show. Maybe it might be 3. I don't know what's going on with this Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. But let's get into the other matches that I believe are on the pre-show, and we can make predictions there. Total Divas versus Bad and Blonde. And that would be the match that I had previously talked about with Eva Marie, Alicia Fox, Natalya, Paige, and Brie Bella against Alana, Summer Rae, Naomi, Emma, and Tamina. This one is going to be on the kickoff. Actually, I believe it's now 3. I believe there's 3 matches on the pre-show. This is going to be one of them. And as far as who wins, Look, I don't know. Total Divas is still a big thing for them. This is believed to be perhaps Brie Bella's last match. Be sure she goes off into retirement with her husband Daniel Bryan to go live off in the Pacific Northwest. And for that, I think Brie Bella is going to be able to have her moment. She's going to get a moment over Lana in this match. And I'm going to go with the Total Divas to come out on the victorious side here for this particular match. Other match on the pre-show is the United States Championship being defended by Kalisto against Ryback. This is a match that I never thought I ever would need to see, and I still don't. I know that they like to play up the David versus Goliath aspect of Kalisto versus Ryback, but this has been a really undercooked sort of feud leading into this match. And for that, I really just got to pick Kalisto and hope that they keep the belt on him in the hopes of making the U.S. Championship once again mean something and not just be this thing that just sort of is there. Also, on the kickoff match, you have the Usos against the Dudleys. Heading into this match, prior to it being announced that it was on the pre-show, I like the Dudleys in this. I think the stage is set for the Usos to sort of get some type of retribution and be able to put the Dudleys through a table in order to sort of even the score from the past. But that's also the exact same setup that leads to the Dudleys being really solid heels moving forward, is denying the fans that satisfaction of having the Usos getting their moment where the Dudleys get comeuppance. I still like the Dudleys for that particular reason. It's sort of an old school setup that the baby faces just never can quite get the moment that they want, and for that, as much as I think the Usos could use the win, I think the Dudleys going with a W here makes the most sense. The New Day versus the League of Nations. This is a handicap match, 3-on-4. WWE Tag Team titles not on the line. And how can you not pick the New Day in this match? The League of Nations, for me, have been over exactly twice since their inception. And the New Day is one of the hottest things they have going in the WWE right now. Even though I'm not always a big fan of it, I recognize the fact that they do have a major following. They do present some entertainment value. And as a result, I think, how could you not put the New Day over? While the League of Nations could probably use some more heat, I look for The Rock to possibly have this as the opportunity to get involved, sort of even the score, and allow the New Day to come up victorious against the League of Nations. Third annual Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. As we saw on Monday Night Raw, sort of a clusterfuck of entrants into this match. Right now, those who have been announced are Heath Slater, Curtis Axel, Adam Rose, Bo Dallas, The Big Show and Kane, Tyler Breeze, Mark Henry, Jack Swagger, Fandango, Damian Sandow, Darren Young, The Ascension, Goldust, and R-Truth. There's a part of me that really deep down wants to root for Tyler Breeze to come out and win this Battle Royal. I know that is not going to happen because Vince McMahon gives not one shit about Tyler Breeze, but I look for a surprise entrant to win this, and that would be the return of Cesaro. I think Cesaro is going to come out. He's going to defeat all of the superstars who have been entered into this match, and Cesaro in the third annual Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal will become a 2-time winner. His return will go over like gangbusters, and this will be the start of the push that Cesaro has been ready for quite some time. I like Cesaro to come out and win this match and give it a little bit of juice that right now it does not have. AJ Styles versus Chris Jericho at WrestleMania. Look, this is the moment for AJ Styles to get his WrestleMania moment. I think Chris Jericho has been playing up his heelish tendencies fantastically leading into this. So far, we have seen Styles and Jericho be good. I think some of their matches just haven't quite clicked. I think this is the time when it finally does. And one-on-one, I think these two guys are ready to really put on something special. And I think that's why with only 7 or 8 matches on the full card. They're going to get some time to really work and make it good. I really look forward to Styles and Jericho. And very simply, I like Styles to get the big match victory over Jericho in his first WrestleMania. Intercontinental Championship match. It's a 7-man ladder clusterfuck with Kevin Owens defending his belt against the likes of Sami Zayn, Dolph Ziggler, Zack Ryder, Sin Cara, The Miz, and Stardust. This is going to be one of those train wreck, just spot fests. There's a part of me that really would like to see Sami Zayn win that Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 32. However, I also do not believe that WWE has done what is necessary in order to get their universe behind Sami Zayn, to get them understanding who Sami Zayn is, and for him to get his revenge on Kevin Owens. I don't think the moment is there to make it just that sweet yet. I like Kevin Owens to emerge from this victorious, beating out all 6 other superstars and staying here as the Intercontinental Champion at a time when they can really use another guy moving up the ladder as far as a big heel to get some heat going. Divas Championship triple threat title match with Charlotte defending against Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. I said it before, I will say it again. This is the match that I look forward to stealing the show at WrestleMania 32. If this match gets the time that it deserves, this is the match we will be talking about next week, and the week after that, and the week after that. I look forward to these 3 women putting on something truly outstanding. I'm very torn as to who is going to walk out of this victorious. You all know that I am unapologetically a Sasha Banks mark, and for that I'm going with my heart, and I'm going to pick the boss to win the Divas Championship, which we hear may be changed over into the Women's Championship the following night on Monday Night Raw. I look for her to be the champion when that new belt and the rebranding of that title goes forth, and I will be excited. You will hear me squealing like a little girl when Sasha Banks raises that belt high at WrestleMania. It will be a dream come true for her. It'll be a dream come true for me. I like Sasha Banks in the Divas triple threat match at WrestleMania 32. Shane McMahon versus The Undertaker, Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania 32. Oh, this is a tough one. This is a real tough one. Can you really have The Undertaker lose twice at WrestleMania? Oh, I don't know. But there's a part of me that in the interest of compelling storytelling is going to pick Shane McMahon to win this match. I don't know that I believe that it should happen. However, because of the idea of Shane McMahon possibly coming into power of Monday Night Raw and allowing that to sort of being a reboot on the fly of the current stale product of the WWE, that's why I'm picking Shane McMahon in this match, and we'll see if I'm right. No holds barred street fight. The Lunatic Fringe Dean Ambrose against the Beast Brock Lesnar. Look, Brock Lesnar is an attraction, and Brock Lesnar delivers beatings like no other. I think with Dean Ambrose, this is going to be sort of that stone cold, blood from the face, not giving up loss that will only help him. I think a loss by Dean Ambrose in brutal fashion actually helps him more than a win over Brock Lesnar could. And for that, I'm picking Brock Lesnar in this, delivering one hellacious ass beating to Dean Ambrose, and for Dean Ambrose to just keep on ticking, and for that respect to once again take hold amongst the WWE Universe. Dean Ambrose will never be hotter than when he loses to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 32. Alright, main event time. This is where we lay it all out. WWE World Heavyweight Championship on the line. Triple H versus Roman Reigns. Look, story-wise, you gotta say Roman Reigns. He's gotta have that moment. The fans are gonna reject it. but you're going to have to ride with it. You're going to have to use that as an opportunity to propel him into heel status with heel mannerisms and heel behavior. And that's going to be the next progression of this story. Triple H winning against Roman Reigns in the interest of trying to prevent boos from raining down at the end of WrestleMania, I don't think is the right way to go. I think you've already come this far. You've already put your chips into the middle of the table, and you're going to have to play this hand with Roman Reigns. And when he is booed, when he is rejected, you need to take that as a sign that what you're doing is not working, and you need to then fix it moving forward. But with that said, I still think Roman Reigns walks out of WrestleMania 32 with the title. I think it's the right call to make. And I think from there, with that call, you need to now figure out the next chapter of the story that you're going to tell. Because long term, Triple H continuing to carry that WWE World Heavyweight Championship does nothing for your brand. Roman Reigns opens up some possibilities, but you gotta walk through that door the right way and not continue to bang yourself on the door frame like an idiot as you pass through. So I like Roman Reigns to capture the World Heavyweight Championship. People are gonna hate it, but I think it opens up the most possibilities moving forward for whatever story it is that they want to tell. All right, those are my predictions for NXT TakeOver Dallas. Those are my predictions for WrestleMania 32. I'm excited to be going. I'm leaving first thing in the morning to head to Dallas. We're dropping this podcast on you before we go, and I hope you listen to it all throughout the weekend as we get ready for WrestleMania 32 to be in the books. So I'll be down in Dallas. Make sure you follow my social media accounts, and you'll sort of get a what's up of where I might be, and perhaps we'll have the opportunity to cross paths. So make sure you follow all social media, especially here at JTW Podcast. That's the official Twitter handle of Just the Worst Podcast. Every time we put a new episode up, you'll be notified there. So make sure that you add that to your Twitter feed. Also, at Tis Infamous, that is the official Twitter handle of our mothership. This is Infamous, currently under reconstruction. Once we get that up and ready to go, you'll be notified as long as you follow that account. So at Tis Infamous. And me, I keep track of all of my WrestleMania going-ons throughout WrestleMania weekend at Infamous Kid. That's 2 D's at the end. Make sure you follow that account, and you'll know where I am all around Dallas the entire WrestleMania weekend. So keep an eye on that at Infamous Kid. Over on Facebook, my friends, facebook.com/justtheworstpodcast, facebook.com/TidsInfamous, and facebook.com/BillyTheKid. Make sure you like all of those pages, and make sure you fight through those awful Facebook algorithms in order to get all the links and all the content we put up on Facebook. So fight through it and follow each one of those profiles. Always good stuff coming right at you. Podcast can be found at SoundCloud.com. That's SoundCloud.com/JustTheWorstPodcast. Or if you have an Apple or Android device, you get yourself the SoundCloud app. And once you're subscribed, every single podcast and every episode that we produce and put out into the world will be delivered to your phone, to your tablet, wherever it is that you have the app. So you make sure you get yourself the SoundCloud app for all of our Just the Worst podcast shows, or SoundCloud.com/JustTheWorstPodcast. You can find all my work on a regular basis at JoeBlow.com, This is Infamous, or right here at Just the Worst Podcast. I have been your host, Billy Donnelly. This has been Just the Worst Wrestling Podcast, episode number 29. I got to get myself ready to go to Dallas for WrestleMania 32. I'll be back next week. We'll break down everything that happened over the course of WrestleMania weekend. I hope to have a really special guest joining me. I don't know who it's going to be just yet, but they will be special. But look, you enjoy WrestleMania. It only comes around once a year, and it's always a really good time to be a wrestling fan. So look, you make sure you kick out before the count of 3. Make sure you hit those ropes hard, because those are the rules. And you make sure that you make the most out of your WrestleMania weekend. Happy WrestleMania 32 to everybody. I'll be back next week. For right now, I'm out. I got a flight to catch. So you have yourself a pleasant, immediate future. Peace. Just the Worst Wrestling Podcast, episode number 29, has been a presentation of Just the Worst Podcast Media and